Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to play the map Morass in Age of Empires 2. This map is currently present in the ranked 1v1 map pool, and so this is a very relevant video. But even beyond that, this map is generally featured in a lot of different tournaments, and you might encounter this map just playing the game randomly here and there. So it's very nice to know how to play it and what it's all about. Before I show you guys the guide though, just a quick reminder to come say hello on Twitch, because we love to see a lot of new viewers coming over from YouTube, and it's a big support to just come down. A link in the description. Check me out on my live streams on Twitch. It would be very lovely to see you all. Alright, so to start things off with Morass, let's take a look at the map itself and actually see what it's all about before we begin to understand how we even want to play on it. The map is mostly defined by the amount of shorefish in the center. It's quite a lot of fish and quite a lot of food, and of course, knowing that shorefish is the fastest source of food gather rate in the game, naturally it's very important then both players want to get into the center and start taking a bunch of the shorefish. And actually the center is a big forest that is surrounded by shorefish, and so naturally both players have access to a good amount of the fish, and as you expand to either side you can get access to more and more. Of course, the fish in the center isn't the only thing to talk about when it comes to this map. You do start on a little bit of a hill, and you have a pretty easy wall around your forests, around your initial base, because of the forests around. And as far as the size of the map, there are a ton of gold and stone piles, as well as some extra fish and berries that you can take as you expand your economy. So because of the surplus of natural resources that are found pretty much everywhere on this map, it leads to a very aggressive map with a lot of army needed to defend your villagers while you take those resources. In a standard game, you definitely want to be pretty passive on something like Arabia, where you set up your farms and develop your economy. But on a map like Morass, as long as you're able to take the fish in the center and expand to the different golds and stones and berries, then you're going to be having a great game. And so less walling, more army generally means a better strategy or a better approach for this map. As far as what to play for when it comes to Morass, my best recommendation is that we play for the shorefish in the center to begin. We do this by initially making our first mill in the center and starting to take some shorefish in Dark Age, and then we follow it up with some army in the Feudal Age looking to contest the shorefish and prevent our opponent from pushing us off. Also, don't be afraid to make a tower or even multiple towers if you can mine some stone and secure different spots in the shorefish, because that is the main goal of what we want to get out when playing Morass. Going on into the Castle Age onwards, the best advice I can give is to wall off the sides of the map, which is usually pretty easy to do because of that middle wood line taking up a good portion of the map. If we can stone wall or house wall one side of the map and then control the other side with army, we'll be doing very nicely in the late game. Also, going back to Castle Age, by spreading out our town centers on the different golds and stones, we can get a lot of those essential minerals and hopefully use that gold and stone to put pressure on our opponents, put castles in key locations, and overwhelm him with our army. That is the overall game plan when it comes to what we're aiming for or aiming to achieve on this map. The most common strategies to be able to achieve this kind of map control are the following. Because the fish in the center are so important, naturally fast and aggressive rushes like the 2 Militia Rush or the Men at Arm Rush will be the key strategies and probably the best things to open for. However, they can sometimes be predictable. If your opponent is a civ like Bulgarians, for example, and it's very obvious he will do the Men at Arm Rush, you could opt to open fast archers, and instead of, just letting him run in with his Men at Arms, you just simply make a tower near your shorefish, and you can make some palisade walls if not, or even a combination of both, and then wait for your archers to come out and clear the Men at Arms. Then we can lead into a nice scout rush following up the archers, because we have all that shorefish control in the center, and so archers into scouts is a really good counter to the Men at Arm play. You could also just straight up open scouts yourself if you have a civ like Franks or Magyars that has a really solid scout rush. I'd recommend though to mix in scouts and spearmen just to make sure we're not dying in the early game to any of their rushes, and 1 or 2 spearmen are always helpful on that map just to get a couple extra bodies near the shorefish fights. Lastly, I'll say don't be afraid to fight back with the villagers and to tower up your shorefish. It is essential to fight for that shorefish, and don't give it up so easily even if your opponent has some Men at Arms or has some aggression. Just fight him back, tower up, and maintain some kind of presence there, because if you leave at the first sign of aggression, you're basically done for. Your opponent has full control of the shorefish and will continue to snowball while you're trying to scramble and seed some farms. You're guaranteed to lose. I'm going to spend a brief section now talking about 2v2s, 3v3s, and 4v4s for this map. The same kind of idea is present. We want to get control of the center in team games, and the best advice is to go for a lot of archers on the flank and a lot of scouts in the center. Men at Arms and such aren't really that popular in team games. I'd much rather you guys go for like a standard very fast uptime, go for like 2 ranges on the flank, archers, no Men at Arms, and then eventually get to the shorefish, and then the pocket goes heavy on the shorefish. And I recommend the pocket players, the cavalry players, to go like multiple stable scouts. Go heavy scouts in Feudal Age, put a lot of pressure, don't be afraid to get bloodlines, forging, armor on the scout cavalry, and then going up into the Castle Age, go like 3-4 stable knights, don't be afraid, pressure for the shorefish, start town centering the shorefish, and really abuse the natural resources on this map is by far the best way to play team games on a Morass. Now that we have a general understanding of the map, what strategies are really good and what we want to play for, let's talk about what civs suit the style the best. Now, when it comes to the men-at-arms approach, the best civilizations are definitely the Japanese at number 1, and I'd say the Dravidians at number 2 probably. Shout out to Viper, the Dravidians made the list, because Dravidians and Japanese both have wood savings, which are really nice for the early game, and they also get really good bonuses for the infantry. In the case of Japanese, faster attacking infantry is very solid, and in the case of Dravidians, getting a discount on men-at-arms upgrade and potentially supplies, if you plan to go all in men-at-arms, can be really good for your setup. There are actually cases where you can go Cumans and make your second town center in the center as well, and although that is extremely risky, it can be a very good strategy to get your second TC in the shorefish, which will act as a defense for the shorefish and let you make more villagers than your opponents, thus increasing your economic standing. As far as other civilizations that tend to perform pretty well, I personally really like the Khmer, as they save on the barracks in the early game, can easily play archers or scouts. Magyars are also pretty good, as they get the +1 attack forging on their scouts and spearmen, so they're pretty flexible. And aside from that, I could see some skirm spear strategies working potentially with the civ like Koreans if you mix that in with some towers, especially going up to guard tower in the Castle Age to help you gain control of a lot of the fish. That sounds like a really good approach as well. Notice that the civilizations I'm picking are ones that have great tools in the early game to put pressure, and ones that have a really good shot at taking the map control and controlling the shorefish to further yourself ahead over your opponent. I'll end this video by giving you guys a couple pro tips for Morass. Now, the number one thing that you have to remember is that we don't need that many vills on wood. The common build order on a map like Arabia is like 9 or 10 on wood. That's what I recommend, and that is correct for Arabia. But on Morass, we're basically planning to never seed a single farm. So what I recommend is keeping only 5 vills on your one lumber camp, only making one lumber camp, and going heavier on the shorefish in the center and maybe on gold if you want to go archers. And if you need extra wood to go archers, you can bump the count to like 6 or 7 on wood, or simply, and which I think is better, take straggler trees. If you take straggler trees with a few villagers, what that's going to do is that you get the wood early on, but you don't get stuck with villagers on wood, and you'll start floating wood in the mid-feudal age and onwards. So less villagers on wood will be amazing, and you're almost guaranteed to pull ahead over your opponent who hasn't watched this video. That's what the promise I make to Hera viewers out there. You get the pro tips and they don't. So less on wood and you're going to pull ahead. They're going to float wood. You're not. You're going to be winning. And then the second pro tip is simply to not be afraid to mine stone in the feudal age. This map is a lot about map control, so mining stone in the feudal age, going for heavy army and then going forward with some towers can be a really good way to kick your opponent off of the middle fish. If your opponent is off the middle fish, it doesn't matter if he gets the castle age faster. If you have a few towers, if you're taking a ton of shorefish, you can easily defend his castle age pressure. Even if he brings some siege, he takes out a couple towers, you'll get the castle age 1 or 2 minutes later, and you have much more economy because of that fishing that you'll be able to easily clear him up. So map control is important. Stone and feudal age is important for those towers. Don't overdo it, but it's nice to have it in your back pocket. That's going to do it for this video, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy it, and let me know in the comments which map you want to see next in the series. Also, you could suggest a civ for me to do a guide on as well, if that's of interest to you guys as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.